This is 7 News, the voice of the Riverina.
Tonight, revellers around the region celebrate the new year in style. Grave fears for a hiker missing for 6 days in the Kosciuszko National Park. And later on this news hour, stunning secrets about Australia's role in the Iraq War revealed. And all the highlights as the world rings in the new year.
7 News begins now.
Good evening. Thousands turned out for New Year's celebrations around the region, and in Wagga, revellers gathered at Lake Albert for a fireworks display before hitting the city for the final hours of 2024.
It was a warm summer's evening as thousands of people set up camp around Lake Albert on the last day of the year. The crowd started to build into the evening, but some families had set up shop from early afternoon. The Wagga Boat Club had a ticketed event with music kicking off from 3 p.m.
We had about 350 down on the deck and the lawn area, and it was a perfect atmosphere on a good night to really enjoy it and bring the new year in.
It was all in anticipation for the dazzling fireworks display that lit up the sky at 9:30. Each year, the spectacle attracts thousands. This year, it's estimated around 10,000 people lined the shores.
There was a lot of people here. The banks all along here were really full. We sat up the top because we were late getting here, but yeah, there was definitely a big crowd.
Wagga Boat Club Commodore Mick Henderson says while the display was great, the only criticism he heard about the fireworks was its location.
I felt that they should have been more in the centre, so everyone that was around the lake got a bit better visual effect.
People flooded into town later that evening, hundreds hitting up the bars in the main street to ring in the new year.
Happy New Year to everyone. In Wagga. Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Today, families were out enjoying the sun.
Just enjoying the sunshine, having a little bit of a ski before it gets too hot.
A perfect way to bring in 2025. Jacinta Coonahan, 7 News.
The search for a missing hiker has entered its 6th day in the Kosciuszko National Park. The 23-year-old Melbourne man vanished on Boxing Day while trekking through thick bush with friends. Emily Francis joins us now for the latest. The latest for us there. Em, what is it?
Dan, the search for Hadi Nazari resumed early this morning. Dozens of emergency service personnel and volunteers are involved. Mr Nazari had been trekking for several days with friends and was last seen on the Hannell Spur Trail. The alarm was raised when he failed to arrive at the G-High campground. Police say the hiker has experienced trekking overseas, but this is the first time he's visited the national park, one of the most rugged in New South Wales. Dan.
Thanks again, Emily. Appreciate it. Emily, Francis there. Well, whether it's losing weight, getting finances in order or learning a new skill, with the new year comes new habits. But as we set grand goals, you know, sometimes it's better to take smaller steps.
It's the time of year to break bad habits and build new ones.
I actually would like to be able to run 5Ks.
My New Year's resolution is probably to go to the gym more, I reckon.
But while it can feel like the time to make drastic changes, going slow is often the better option.
Sometimes those really extreme approaches might not always be the ones that's going to get us the best results in the long run.
Small, basic steps are the best starting point to remaining consistent.
Moving your body in a way that feels good for your body, drinking enough water, adding some more veggies to your meals.
For some, the New Year's is the time to connect with loved ones.
Yes, to see my family more often.
Or find loved ones to connect with.
My New Year's resolution is to buy a new puppy dog.
Some are focusing more on work this year.
In regards to my work, how can I just, improve it? Yeah, that's it so far.
Work harder, and I'm an independent creative, so I've got to get work out there so people can see what I do.
Some don't have any plans just yet.
No. I don't know.
But for most, now's the time to focus on the bigger picture.
Just to try and have a better time and, be good to everybody, try and be a better person. That's what we do all the time, isn't it?
Josiah Hanna, 7 News.
Highway patrols are out in force around our region, making sure that New Year's revellers aren't driving while over the legal limit. Alcohol was a factor in more than 17% of all fatal crashes in New South Wales in 2023. Last year's figures are yet to be released. In New South Wales, double demerits, they apply until midnight. Well, medication prices will stay the same this year, bringing cost of living relief to Riverina residents. Every year, the price of medication on the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme is increased to keep up with inflation. But this year, the government has frozen prices.
Prices will stay at $7.70 and general PBS prices will stay at $31.60, which is fantastic news, especially in a cost of living crisis that we don't have medicines or PBS medicines increasing this year.
In fact, the freeze will remain in place for the year. Engineered stone bench tops could be harder to come by after a national import ban came into effect today. Stone bench tops and slabs with more than 1% silica can no longer be brought into the country. The ban's designed to protect workers from silicosis, a lung disease. The stone, which is often used in kitchen bench tops, has been linked to the incurable illness since 2015. The state government's funding a team of safety inspectors to ensure businesses comply with the new laws. A Wagga Council is calling for more to be done to tackle the housing crisis. Richard Foley says a balanced approach is needed to make housing accessible and fair. He says while relief for renters is necessary, it needs to be balanced with assistance for homeowners.
Have an issue now where we've got mortgagees going to be coming off fixed interest rates. I think we're entering into very dark territory.
Councillor Foley is running as a candidate in the next federal election. He's pushing for an end to negative gearing for lower priced properties. Craig's here now with a look at how today stacked up for those who actually managed to get out of bed and see it. How was it?
Warm to hot, if you like, Gibbo. Good evening to you. And Happy New Year. Wow, what a warm start to 2025 across the region today. Plenty of blue sky, nice breeze, lovely summer's day, despite the high fire danger. It warmed up quickly after overnight temps dropped to the mid-teens at a number of centres, but with daytime temps into the 30s by lunchtime and staying up into the mid-30s by the afternoon. You can see those maximums there for Wagga, Gundagai, Tumut. No shortage of warmth around Temora, 35 West Wyalong with a high of 37 degrees after 14 overnight. It was the same around Young and Grenfell. Now those conditions will remain nice for the next couple of days, but there is some more warmth across our backyards tomorrow. I'll have those details down for you a little later.
It was so warm we had a little tiger slithery snaky thing in our garden today, which, thank you, I'll stop talking about it. Heart rate's just come down. Still to come in 7 years, Wagga continues to grow as a military city and the thrills and spills at one of the country's most popular rodeos. And a little later on this news hour, New Year's celebrations take a wild turn as revellers send police scrambling. Woolworths responds to the uproar, the surprise Australia Day merchandise backflip. A dirty deed, a slice of rock and roll history demolished. And from New York to Paris, how the rest of the world celebrated. New Year's Day means one thing for the Riverina rodeo community. The state's longest running event is back. Thousands turned out for the Tumbarumba rodeo, a major boost for the local town.
The Bulls and Broncs got the better of the Cowboys at this year's Tumba rodeo, with plenty of thrills and spills to keep the audience entertained. Over 300 of Australia's best riders signed up for the state's oldest rodeo to take on our best local stock.
I hope to get on one of the local steers, so that'll be pretty fun, but let's just hope my brother can actually ride one of the bulls that he's on.
Geelong, I've been coming here for probably 5 or 6 years each year. Just a good show.
Spectators had the chance to witness some of the best in the business, from the junior barrel race to the senior bull riding competition.
We've got veterans here, we've got people that still compete in their 80s, and we've got, the junior events and the small children competing as well. So it's a very family-friendly event to watch and to compete.
But the crowd favourite was, without a doubt, Tumbarumba's own APRA Bucking Horse of the Year, Hilltop Hustler.
I think the crowd favourite will be watching that horse buck. He's definitely gained a following across the country, and a lot of people within the rodeo industry and outside of the rodeo industry are watching what he's doing.
After 79 years, the Tumbarumba rodeo is still riding high. This year's turnout was one of the best yet.
You can tell the vibe in town, it's alive. You've got all these greatly dressed rodeo supporters coming here, so we expect huge numbers.
We generally expect just over 2,000 in the crowd. We have had crowds of up to 3,000 people, so lots of people here to see the rodeo action.
With an even bigger event expected for 2026 to mark the 80th anniversary year. Emily Francis, 7 News.
From support for our veterans to a multi-billion-dollar investment in Wagga's 2 military bases, Australia's Defence Force continued its long-standing relationship with the Riverina throughout 2024.
A Veterans Gaming Day kicked off the year, the aim to bring former military members and their families together.
If we can actually get people to meet in person, face to face, it really encourages that social connectivity.
Later that month, the importance of the Defence Force's continued presence in the Riverina was made clear. $1.9 billion was allocated for upgrades to Wagga's RAF base, Kapooka Army Barracks and the Albury military area.
This is important because the accommodation for the recruits while they do their training and for the anybody else who lives on site dates back to the 50s and 60s.
In February, the Pro Patria Centre received a funding boost from Wagga's Classic Motorcycle Club.
Some of the things that we require to do now is to make facilities available for our service providers. That's our doctors, our psychiatrists, psychologists.
But sadly, the city's military veterans were dishonoured a few short months later. Those passing through the Victory Memorial Gardens were greeted to a sea of white in April. And while it might have seemed like a harmless prank, the Eternal Flame is actually a sacred military monument.
It's quite disappointing for that to happen because it communicates a failure to understand how important and significant this symbol is.
Of course, April also hosted the most significant day of honour on the Riverina's calendar. At break of dawn, the crowds gathered. Those who have served, those who do serve, and those who sacrificed on behalf of an enlisted family member.
All of them have faced down the deepest winters and darkest shadows, standing firm in our time of need. On Anzac Day, as a nation, we thank them for their service.
In the warmer air of mid-morning, Wagga families turned out in their thousands. An impressive display of military prowess made its way down Baylis Street. School kids, scouts and emergency services joined ex and current servicemen and marched in the streets in Junee.
What a fantastic turnout, and I can only say that you respect our people who have fought for our freedoms just as very much as I do.
Batlow's Anzac Day march was almost cancelled after a miscommunication between council and the RSL sub-branch, but on the big day, the community united to honour great sacrifices.
I love to see the younger children in the schools and participate because, well, we've got to pass something on. Let's hope we can pass it on to them.
Later that afternoon, punters flocked to pubs for two-up, playing the game that's legal for only one day of the year. September saw the release of a crucial report into defence and veteran suicide. Richard Salcole spent 28 years in the Royal Australian Air Force and 2 in the Australian Army Reserve. 10 years later, the Wagga veteran says it's the validation he'd been hoping for.
For me, it was more about making sure that veterans were heard.
And as the year drew to its final months, a new memorial service was held, a gathering to commemorate those who served in our modern wars, conflicts that occurred after 1975.
Every one of those conflicts, humanitarian operations and peacekeeping operations, have been significant events for our country in supporting those countries that haven't been able to look after themselves.
And a historic moment in November, with RAF Base Wagga and Kapooka both being given an Indigenous name. Samantha Costin, 7 News.
Still to come in 7 News, we'll look back at the season that was in Group 9 and AFL Riverina. It was certainly a season full of surprises and back-to-back champions.
Every league hopes Grand Final day will deliver a classic match, and that was certainly the case in 2024. It was the season of stirring comebacks, drought breakers and back-to-back champions. Tonight, we look back at the season that was in Group 9 and AFL Riverina.
2024 saw the return of brothers to Group 9 Rugby League first grade, and while competitive, ultimately they would win just once. Defending champions Tumut lost virtually a whole team in the off-season, and it showed uncharacteristically missing finals. But it was South City that took the Bulls by the horns in the first half of the season, with a nice change sitting inside the top 5. But they would miss finals instead, giving up their spot to the boys down south. Albury Thunder, though, didn't get much further, bowing out in the first elimination final 22-18 against Kangaroos. In the qualifying final, it was Temora and Gundagai, with the Dragons earning 2 chances at a grand final with a 24-20 win.
I tell you what, you couldn't have gotten a better kick if you tried, and that's why he's one of the best halves in the league.
It left the Tigers to face the Roos in week 2, and unfortunately, it would be the end of the road, going down 20-28. Kangaroos would watch on as Young and Temora battled for the first grand final spot, and it was the Cherry Pickers advancing 26-16.
He dodges left and he's in! Fantastic solo effort!
For the second year in a row, Temora would fall just short of the final game, defeated a week later 4-24 by Kangaroos. The decider having Roos out for redemption, while Young were craving their first success since 1991. In one of the great Group 9 grand finals, Young would score late to end 33 years of disappointment in the sweetest of ways. Like Tumut in Group 9, AFL Riverina champions Turvey Park would fall from grace, going from premiers to missing finals. The team that played them in the 2023 final, Griffith, also wouldn't go much further, bowing out in the first final to Coolaman.
It's true. And Coolaman conjuring something out of nothing there.
Colin Gully would thrash Mangalapar to set up a crack at minor premiers Ganmain in the second semi, but they would lose by 14 points. They made the most of their second chance, but coming up against Coolaman in the prelim, setting up the grand final everyone saw coming. The grand final delivering a game for the ages, with Ganmain leading by 14 points at three-quarter time in a low-scoring contest. But the Demons produced a stirring comeback, kicking the only 3 goals of the last term to break Lion Hearts by just 6 points.
Please congratulate our premiers for 2024, Collingully Wagga.
In Farah, East Wagga were a premiership favourite for much of the year, but Murrah would lower their colours in week 1. The Bombers' momentum rolling on, defeating minor premiers the Rock Huron Creek to advance to the grand final.
They will play for the trophy in a fortnight from now.
The Magpies, though, not prepared to go quietly, defeating East Wagga in the prelim to earn another crack at the title. Murrah off to the better start, opening up an 11-point lead at quarter time before what looked like a match-winning lead of 35 points at half-time. But what happened next will live on in league folklore, as somehow, someway, the Rock took the lead by 3 points at three-quarter time. 10 goals to 1 after half-time, the Magpies back-to-back premiers and their most famous win in history.
For the first time since 97-98.
Stephen Murphy, 7 News.
Still to come in 7 News, Craig will be back with your all-important local weather forecast.
Good evening once again. Plenty of warmth around the state today thanks to a high pressure system over the Tasman Sea. It is extending a ridge along the trough with a case of the coast in there together with the Queensland trough that's extending through into northern and central inland parts of New South Wales. Meanwhile, a weak coastal trough is stalling near the south coast. That'll be replaced by another more substantial trough that'll bring fresh southerly winds and a change along the southern and central parts of the coast tomorrow. That trough will then slowly move north along the coast till Friday. We'll still have some warm days and sunny days coming up, including the weekend, before a change, and then we might just start to see those colours change with a couple of passing showers. Now, the stable conditions over the past couple of days will persist again tomorrow for the Riverina. Winds from the south, 20 to 30 k's, a little fresh at times. Overnight temps falling into the teens, anywhere between 12 and 15 degrees. So sleeping is nice, but those daytime temps, look at those, low to mid 30s, except for Selwyn, around 20 degrees. And remember the sun protection for the outdoors. Friday looks much like tomorrow, a case of rinse and repeat, as we like to say. More blue skies across the region, those winds tending more from the northeast during the day, again pushing up those daytime temps into the low to mid 30s for a number of our centres, again somewhat cooler for Selwyn and the high country. Turning to Saturday, first weekend of the new year, more of the sunshine coming our way. Those overnight lows, though, they're starting to creep up, but those daytime temps around Naranda and Wagga also up. More warmth on the way around Cootamundra, also through Hardin, Temora, and, wow, almost 30 degrees for Tumut. So whatever you do, keep cool at your place, including, look at that, Dan, second half of the weekend. I think that word scorcher again comes to mind.
I think it does. And you, early on there, you had more troughs than the local sale yards in that weather report. Good on you, mate. Thank you. That is your local news for tonight. I'm Daniel Gibson. Thanks again for watching. Of course, in just a moment, I'm back with your latest national and international news. See you in just a tick.